Good afternoon, everyone. As news broke yesterday of Sierra Vista Mayor Clea McCaa's decision to not run for a second mayoral term, we have the opportunity to speak with those who are seeking that position, who want to come and talk to us. And today, we get to talk to City Councilman Mark Rodrigues on this episode of Jeff Davenport Live, brought to you by the Morse Automotive Group. Sierra Vista and Cochise County are backed by Morse. Before we get going, as a note of transparency and full disclosure, over the upcoming political season, for those who will be running for this mayor position, we will be using the same format of questions just to make it fair for everybody and allow them to answer the questions as they see fit. First of all, Mark, good to see you, man.
Always
Thank you
good to
so
see you.
much. Happy
Always good to
holidays,
see you.
Merry Christmas. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us
Same to
today.
you.
Obviously, you have some big news. What would that big news be?
Yes, well, as you mentioned yesterday, Mayor Clea McCaa said he's not going to run, so I'm officially announcing that I'm going to be running for mayor of Sierra Vista.
Man, well, we're excited about that. And before we talk to you about what you'd like to do as mayor, I'd like to discuss how your time has been on city council. How long have you served on the Sierra Vista City Council?
Yeah, so this is going into my 5th year.
Wow.
I got on in 2021 when I got appointed first, ran an election to get on city council to hold my seat. So now I'm going on my 5th year.
So an appointment and an election,
Right.
and obviously, staying the long term there. What do you see as being some of those major accomplishments over your time on the city council?
Right.
That the council's been able to work together. It is a collaborative group.
It is.
To be able to work together, what are some big things that maybe you have helped propose or put into motion that the council has responded to?
Yeah, and I like how you said the council is a council, good council. Just to talk about councils real quick, I think if we're all voting yes, or we're all voting no, it's not the right council. And we've been fortunate to have a good council to where we all have our own initiatives, our own ideas, and our own passions. And we're not always going to agree, but at the end of the day, we come together and we still work together as a team. And we've been fortunate as a city to have that. A lot of cities don't, and I want that to continue. And just to talk about some things I've done on council, as you know, and people that know me, I'm very approachable. I'm accessible. I'm active on social media. Some people advise against that in this political game, but I use it as a tool for putting information out there. I try to share everything I can, spread the word, because people want their news different ways. Cool FM, the newspaper, Facebook, Instagram, however, I just try to do my little part. I try to be out in the community as much as possible. I can't be everywhere, but I will be everywhere I can be. And people know that if they need my help, I'll show up. And I've always felt like, politicians, you shouldn't just see them when it's campaign year. And you shouldn't be able to be like, oh, you know what, it's a campaign year, I can tell. There should be no difference in my eyes. I think a lot of times I think about Sheriff Mark the way he does things, and I've kind of tried to emulate that, because you can never tell when he's campaigning, because he's everywhere and he's always available to the people. So I've always tried to take that as a lead from that. My time on council as well, I've been fortunate to resurrect the Youth Council, Youth Commission, which is now the Youth Council. And so, I mean, the voice of the youth is so important to me. You're always, you see me posting about these all the time. Support our youth, because I think it's priceless, right? That investment that we put in those young kids, and it's of all financial backgrounds, of all skill abilities. So that's why, Boys and Girls Club, I love supporting them. The Avengers Inclusion Organization, the Special Olympics, I try to help out whenever they can. I'm a veteran, as you know, so vets are big with me, and I try to do anything I can to support veterans, because it can be tough transitioning, to civilian life, coming back from combat, or just life in general. So, it's good that we have some great organizations out there. Coaching Serving Veterans, the VFW, the American Legion, Warrior Healing Center, and they know if they want to do a podcast, if they need me to sit in the dunking booth like me and the mayor did, I'm available. Whatever it takes to help out the vets, whatever it takes to help the kids, sign me up. I've been a very big advocate of small businesses, right? Supporting local. I have shirts that say support local, because I really mean it. I might get a tattoo that says supporting local, because that's how much I really mean it. Nonprofits as well, because they go hand in hand, I think, with local, small businesses. Ribbon cuttings are great. I love being there for a part of that, but it's the after that, the next years that are tough, where things come up. And I've been appreciative that people reach out to me and say, I need help with this, or I have a question. Who do I ask about this? And I can connect them to the right person, and to make sure that business succeeds, because that's super important to our overall economy, right? Is our small businesses here in Sierra Vista. I've been a big volunteer my whole life, my whole career, thanks to my grandfather, who really instilled that in me. And one of the first things I did when I got here was, I did the Citizens Fire Academy, and there's also a Citizens Police Academy, which we'll talk in a minute. But I did the Citizens Fire Academy first, and I looked into their volunteer opportunity, which is to do the smoke detector program. And that was back in 2014. So I started with that. I took it over in 2017 as a lead, and I still do it every month. Normally the third Saturday, me or someone from my team is out there in people's homes, changing batteries, installing detectors, and I enjoy it because I get to talk to people, see what's going on in their house, in their community, and chat it up a little bit. At the same time, we're making their house safer. And then later on, the Citizens Police Academy. Then I did EMT, firefighter. I was a Whetstone firefighter for a while. Doing ride-alongs and spending that time in those departments really gave me a good sense of what they go through on an everyday basis, what their life is like as a first responder in Sierra Vista. And I'm so appreciative of them, and I definitely support both departments, and I feel like I've done that throughout my tenure on council to make sure that they get what they need. And then, whenever I see someone from our state legislature or our governor, or even when I'm traveling to our conferences, I make sure people know that Sierra Vista, where we're located, right, that we are the home of the Buffalo Soldiers, that we're the hummingbird capital of the world, that we're an amazing place you need to come visit, invest in. I spread the word about our city anywhere I'm at. So I think I've done a good job of that, and I will continue to do that.
Talk about that relationship between the local and then the state legislature, the Congress level, and then the Senate level, all within the state of Arizona. That framework, it still comes down to the individual city, does it not?
It does, and as you know, Cochise County, we're a powerful county because of our size, because of our voters. We have a lot of people down here, a lot of veterans down here. So you see a lot of politicians come down here when it's election time, and that's fine. But my question to them is always, I hope it's not the last time we're going to see you, and I would love updates to see how you're fighting for our community. And every time I see them, I make sure they know what issues were going on, like the government shutdown, things like that we had recently, and I make sure that I'm very vocal about that and know that there's our issues going on, and we need that representation. We don't just need them to come down here and take photo ops, because I'm not okay with that. I really want them to do what the people elect them to do, is to fight for Arizona.
You and Mayor McCaa yesterday both brought up one person in particular, and that is Sheriff Mark Daniels.
Right.
How has your friendship with him helped inform you on the state of law enforcement here in Cochise County?
He is an open book. He is super accessible from day one, and he's another Mark. So Marks stick together, But he's always been there for to do ride-alongs. He offered me to go. I went on a cool ride-along with him. Kind of showed me what he sees in his shoes every day, and he does it for a lot of people whenever they ask. Just watching him do that, getting the feedback from what he sees, from what his different teams see, from the border all the way up to I-10, because Cochise County is huge and they really patrol all that area. He's been a super big asset, obviously to our community, and just for me to understand what that side of law enforcement is going through and what their needs are, so that way I can always convey that too when I'm talking to people at the state level.
I think that's very important. Obviously, you brought it up a little bit. Aside from your time on City Council, what other organizations or groups are you involved in?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. When people reach out to me, I hate to say no, and my schedule there's only 24 hours in a day, but I try to put 26 somehow. Sometimes I just try to do it. I still have to be a husband. I still have to be a father. I still have a job that pays the bills. But time management obviously is another thing I learned in the military. It helps me with that. But the communities out there, and like I said, I mentioned the Avengers Inclusion Organizations. I love that organization. Seeing them out there playing sports, and then when they progress when they age out at 21 to go to Special Olympics, they go to things like go to state. And I think everybody in our whole community should be out there supporting them, because that's just an amazing feat for anybody at any level to do. So I love those organizations. I love helping out with them. I mentioned Cochise Serving Veterans. I kind of sit on their board as a liaison to the city, and they do some amazing things for our veterans. And I'm always willing to help whatever they're doing, because like I said, veterans are super important to me. The college, Cochise College Advisory Board for the EMS board there, I sit on that as well, just to see how the training is going for our EMTs, for our paramedics, how the instruction is going. Because Cochise College is doing amazing things when it comes to that. State of the art. You've seen the videos. Cool FM's done videos on the trainers there that they have, the virtual stuff. I went to that program as an EMT, as a firefighter, and it is state of the art, really good equipment. So I love being part of that as well. And then just unofficial things when people call me to just, hey, can you speak at our event? Can you come talk to our student council, do our commencement ceremony? things like that, and I'm all for it. When it comes to, like I said, if they call me, they know I'll be there as long as I'm in town and I have time on my schedule.
And again, the focus on youth, I think, is something that's very important. But probably is that the thing that you think makes you unique
Yeah,
in someone who represents the city
yeah.
through the city council and possibly running for the mayor?
I love our youth, and I don't just say it. I mean, it's not just a Whitney Houston song. I believe the children are our future. It's a real thing, I really believe in that, and they are the
You can sing that if you'd like, please. Break it.
maybe next time, because they have the power to change things, and it's in their hands, and they're so powerful. And I always want to make sure they know that. I want to do a big push to get a lot of young voters registered to vote, because I've talked to a lot of youth, and I remember being their age, and I wasn't really excited about voting. It was what seemed like something that didn't interest me, but our youth today are really interested in making a difference, and so I do want to make sure that they stay involved, because one day they may come back after they spread their wings and come back and do great things in our community. And I love that they're doing. I love their ideas that they give me, and I kind of behind the scenes try to plug in the pieces to make it work. Based off their ideas, and they have skin in the game. They do fundraisers. They put in work and things like that. And I love taking them to D.C. They can see the Capitol and talk to our legislators face to face. They hear our issues from Southern Arizona all the way up to D.C. when I take them with me. So I'm really proud to be able to do that. And I'm thankful for the sponsorships and the people that have helped me do that throughout the years. But yes, youth is super important to me, and I love all these organizations out there. Just you see it on online all the time. We have sports, archery people are going to, the Olympics. Our DECA students here at Buena are amazing. Me and Mayor McCaa actually got to be a judge at their speaking competition, and man, those DECA kids were amazing there at Buena High School. So, yeah, like I said, they have a powerful tool in their hands, and I want them to make sure they use it.
You brought up Mayor McCaa. What has it been like serving under Mayor Clea McCaa here at the city of Sierra Vista? And in what ways would your leadership style be different than his in the mayor's office?
Yeah, so working with Mayor McCaa, we campaigned in the same year in 2022 when he campaigned for mayor and I campaigned for council. So we did a lot of things together then. I supported him then, I support him now. So I've always been, it was like I said, I never wanted to run against him. So when he made the move to not run, that was my sign to go ahead and step up, because I didn't want to step on his toes, because I liked the way he was going and the vision he had. And we have similar styles. We're out a lot of times. If I'm somewhere, I see him. We see each other. We take pictures of each other, like, hey, hey man, we're in the same place. So we have that where community is very important to us. I think we do definitely agree on that. I love that he does his version of, he does the Walk It on Wednesday thing. I love that. I've talked to business owners that have reached out to me. Hey, can you get me on his schedule? Where's he going today? So that means something to me when our community is like, they like that, just for the simple fact that, and just like when I walk around somewhere and I walk into a building and they're like, this is the first time anybody from the city's ever been here. I'm like, wow, I'm sorry. First of all, I'm sorry I'm the first one ever, but we should be making those rounds often and checking on people. And, it's hard to do the whole city, and because there's little nooks and crannies here. There's some business I don't even know exists sometimes until I drive by. I'm like, oh, what is that? And I'll pop in there and see what that's about, and see if I can support wherever I can, or just introduce myself. And I think that's important that we should be doing, like I said, as elected officials, is being accessible and just making those contacts, with our businesses.
How do you believe your time on city council has prepared you for this next step to run for mayor?
Well, I think it started before that. I think it started with the military. I didn't realize it, but 21 years of being in the Army really prepared me for a lot of things I didn't realize. Holding people accountable. Always doing the right thing when no one's looking. Those leadership positions I was always in, taking action in the absence of orders. All those things really helped me when I got to council. I mean, my first thing when I got appointed, I sat behind the desk on this side, and everybody's on that side asking me questions, just like a military promotion board. It was like deja vu. So it came second nature to me on that aspect. So, and then being on council, sitting in the meetings, obviously, learning more and more each time. Reading, I do a lot of reading. As you can see, some of our things we talk about on council, some of those, they're pretty thick, on the agenda. But just asking a lot of questions, going to the source, asking our staff questions, making my rounds, like getting more and more knowledgeable on how the city runs, how it can run better, what has worked in the past, what hasn't worked. I think has really prepared me to step up and be mayor.
So looking at all those things, what do you see as the current pressing challenges or issues that are facing Sierra Vista right now, possibly in the year 2026, as you make this run for mayor to be elected next year, in the next 11 months? What are those things that you see that the people watching this right now, they're like, oh yeah, these are things that affect me directly, and what would you do to address those? If there's like a top 3 or top 2?
Yeah, well, I think we got a dose of it this year. When the government shut down. For a long time, living in a community like this, people felt like all government jobs and contracts are always going to be safe, but they weren't, and they aren't. So we have to continue to diversify our economic portfolio here in Sierra Vista, get creative to make sure we always have jobs for people, whether that be on the fort, on the airport side, we have some good things coming in there. In town, we have some big box stores coming up, we have Sprouts coming, things like that. But like I mentioned earlier, those small businesses are super important too, to make sure that they continue to thrive. That's really been the lifeblood of our city for the longest time, is being a small community, is those mom and pop shops that everybody knows that have stood the test of time for a reason, but they're really struggling right now for a lot of reasons. So one of the issues I've seen, especially on the West End, is the building owners. People that own these buildings in the West End are not doing their due diligence, and it's frustrating. You have people that want to start a business, that want to get in there because they've outgrown their at-home business, want a brick and mortar, they get a deal on a space, and then before you know it, they have issues with the roof, with the plumbing, and these building owners don't want to make the repairs, or they pass it on to the tenant, which is not okay with me. A lot of things they do are not illegal. Are they immoral? 100%, and I'm not a fan of that. But there has to be something we can do, whether that's looking to passing some local legislation to hold them accountable, because it's really, really hurting our businesses on that side of town. And they'd rather have an empty building. If they're not going to use it or not going to help our community, they should just sell it. Somebody else who really wants to make a difference in our community. So I've noticed that, especially on that side of town and other places where they're dealing with those tenants are dealing with those issues, and they're a small business. They can't afford those big repairs, and it shouldn't be on them. So that's definitely a problem I see, and we definitely need to spend more energy towards that.
How can you do that? Getting in touch with these oftentimes out-of-state owners of these buildings.
Yes.
A lot of them, well, I can't say a lot, I don't know a lot, but I mean, several of them, if not many of them, aren't even Arizona residents, right?
That's what I'm saying. We could pass some local legislation that kind of would have that has some teeth, that maybe holds their feet to the fire. If they're not gonna, if there's maybe an ordinance that goes against that, basically using people, their tenants, and then spitting them out when they're done. Whatever it takes to get this done, I'm trying to get this finished, because I see it every day, and it's frustrating me, because I want these businesses to succeed. And it's kind of out of the city's hands at some point, a lot of times, because it's like, well, you made the deal, you signed the contract with this person. So it's like, well, legally we can't do anything, but we still have to find something that we can do to help these people, because they need help.
I like that drive, that focus. Again, youth, community overall, small business, nonprofits.
Yeah,
that seems to just kind of sum up who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I love local. I'm a Texas boy at heart, and then I moved.
Nobody's
here,
perfect. It's all right.
But then I came here. Throughout my military career, small stints here and there. I was a typical military guy. Came in for a small amount of time. Went to JRs, went to Texas A&Ms, went to all those things. Hit all the restaurants, hit the hotels, and I was gone. Moving back here, soldier, being stationed here, and living here with a family, it's a totally different perspective, and it really grows on you, and I love it. Our West End, our historic West End, that's where the city started, down there. So I really want to, and it's sad to see some things going away locally, like Beach Route, the museums on the fort. That really frustrates me too, because that is history. We have so much history here locally on the fort, NACO, things like that. Where I've already put some feelers out there to try to work with some organizations that are trying to save, Beach Route. I would love to maybe combine the museums, because that's a great museum on Fort Worth. If you've never been there, oh my God, they have some really, really cool stuff at that museum. They have this really cool shirt. You see me wear the Sierra Vista shirt. It looks like a map, like a terrain map. They have it there. It's really cool. So with the work with our Sierra Vista Historical Society, Southwest Arizona Buffalo Soldiers, and maybe come together and start working on things like the Legacy Park, Jones Legacy Park there on the West End, and then the West End as well. I feel like the West End should expand the work that we're doing up to Kayatan, because I feel like when people come to our town, a lot of times if they're going to a sporting event at Sierra, Kayatan Road is the first thing they see, and that's not a very nice road if you've driven it. It's a lot of bumps,
Right.
a lot of potholes. So we really need to send some love that way, because if I'm going to a town and that's the first, the map tells me to turn in there, and I'm like, wow, my first impression. Now Pepsi has Pepsi money, so they've done some good things to the Pepsi building. It looks great, but now we have to come in and fill the gaps there. There's some businesses that have been there that are there. It's an industrial area, but it meets up with Sierra Park, so we got to put some sidewalks down there, put some lighting on that parking lot. So like we can be better partners with those businesses, because I'm at Sierra Park a lot, and I see the parents blocking businesses, because they'd rather park there. So just little things like that I think would make our city more beautiful and complement the West End project that's going on now.
Amazing goals, amazing thoughts, and it's City Councilman Mark Rodrigues announcing his run for Sierra Vista Mayor. That's pretty much all the questions I had today, but before we close, would definitely love to give you the floor to talk to everybody here watching with some holiday wishes, community thoughts, or anything like that, man. The floor is yours, Mark.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that so much. It's an honor to be here with the voice of Arizona. You don't have your jacket on with inside, but I think
I know.
But I think it's on your heart.
To grab it.
I think you have a tattoo on your heart that says the voice of Arizona. So thank you for the invitation, and thank you for doing this for all the candidates that want to do this to keep it fair. And to get everybody's platform out there. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate Cool FM doing that. And I definitely want to wish everybody happy holidays. And I hope that everybody's safe. Your loved ones are safe wherever you are. If your loved ones are out of town, like my daughter's in Hawaii, my stepson's out in Washington State. Like most families, we're all separated. But at this time of year, you really, it's about family. So I'm hoping all of you can spend as much time with your family as you can. And I really appreciate the community support over the years. From the people who, during COVID time, we sat around and talked about, hey, you should probably run. It's funny because at that first meeting I had with some friends of mine that said, you should run for mayor, man. I'm like, you are crazy, dude. I'm a military guy. I have no ambition to do anything political. But from that point to in 2021, when Sarah Pacheco left council and that seat opened up, wow, so I go into the appointment and had more support there. And up to this point where people have reached out to me and said, hey, you know what? When are you going to run for mayor? When are you going to do it? So it's been in the back of my mind. And like I said, timing had to be right. And I feel like it is now. So I really appreciate all the support out there. Our community is amazing. Thank you for coming together when it came to our government shutdown. It broke my heart to see government employees out there trying to get help in line to get some vouchers and food and stuff like that. But our community was right there giving what they could. Our toy drive that we had this past, the firefighter toy drive, they're kind of worried at first because like everything else, all donations are down right now.
Yeah.
Because people are, trying to keep in tight right now. But our community came through and delivered all the toys to the toy drive, and they were able to do the bag and tag successfully and deliver those toys to needy families here. So that's why I love our community. Having our small community is so good. You won't ever find this anywhere else in this state and maybe even this country. So I just want to thank everybody in our community for your support. We're supporting each other, and I'm looking forward to continue to serve you in the coming years.
He is City Councilman Mark Rodrigues. Mark, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for your time today. Always a pleasure to see you in and around the community. As often as I get to places, I usually see that beautiful face right there waiting for me at some corner somewhere right around the way. He's always there. And if you were at Glow Ride this weekend, you ended up seeing a big old banner on the side of that truck saying Mark for Mayor. Is that the slogan?
That's the slogan, Mark for Mayor. I was going to go with the mayor with the hair, but I thought maybe Mark for Mayor is probably a little bit more professional.
Maybe a little bit. That's all right. Either way, the mayor with the hair or Mark for mayor. It's Mark Rodrigues, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Jeff Davenport Live. Thank you to the Ed Morse Automotive Group for sponsoring this episode today. And again, if you have questions or comments, or please leave them in the chat. I know Mark will be looking at it and doing his best to answer them. And if you have specific questions about things that were not addressed today, I promise you, over the course of the next 11 months, those things will be addressed, and we will get to those. But we just wanted to get like an introductory look at you, and give you all the introductory look at City Councilman Mark Rodrigues today. We wish you a wonderful Christmas, a great rest of your day, a great Christmas Eve tomorrow. As Mark Rodrigues said, please stay safe, everybody. Have a great one. We will check in with you again later on. Thank you so much. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.